How do you approach a client that comes to you that's starting at ground zero? Maybe not even know what the term CRM means.
I think you got to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand. I like to ask, what have you tried in the past? Like, how long has this been a problem? What have you tried to do to solve that problem in the future? And then ultimately, have you identified people, the right people that need to be in the right room, or have you identified the right folks to get in the room with you to solve this problem? And understanding on a spectrum of 0 to 10 as we're just kicking off this journey, or hey, we're ready to go. We've gone through, we've done all of our research, we've looked online, we've met with just about every tool out there, and we're ready to make a decision. I like to just understand where they're coming from. That helps me gauge where are they on the process, to understand ultimately how much educating they need. But at the end of the day, people need a guide, and people are looking for someone to tell them what they don't know.
And so when you get to that point in the process, meeting the client, of figuring out where they are in the journey, kind of what's our next step? What's our role then? Once we've asked those questions, once we've kind of figured out a good solution for them, what do we do then on the client's behalf to kind of help them take the next step in that journey?
I think it always is really key to tie whatever they're trying to do back to business value. So I like to ask those questions, and our team does a really good job of asking those business value questions of how are you going to be better off? Like, what is the, not only what does a win look like, but ultimately how is your business going to be impacted? What tactically do you need the tool to do, or what sort of business processes need to change in order to accomplish these goals? A lot of times, I've heard it said this way, that your current processes and your current tools are getting you the results that you're getting today. If you want a different process and a different result, you got to have another tool.
I've often heard in evaluations I've run, people want to know, that clients, prospective clients want to know, what's the ROI going to be? Why is that a tough question to answer?
It's tough because there's really two aspects of it. I mean, you can talk about direct. So what's your direct ROI? That's easy. It's like, well, Sally or John or whoever else is spending hours a day pulling manual reports. That's easy. Well, you can say, all right, well, how much do those people make? How many hours a day are they doing that? You can come up with a general ROI. The intangible is more difficult, usually the most impactful, I would argue. And so I think in the sales cycle, or when clients or prospective customers are coming to us, they don't know what that is. They want to know, typically a CFO or a CEO wants to know, hey, what is my ROI going to be? And so it's tough to come up with that second part of the equation. That's why we take ample time to really understand what's your current process, and then how can we take your current process and streamline that in this process. So we don't want to just go from spreadsheets and put it into a CRM. How can we take this as an opportunity to really digitally transform your business?
There's probably a lot of people out there, a lot of small businesses, they're probably successful. They don't even know they need a CRM. They have no clue that there's even a problem. What should those people be looking for in their business that may make them think twice about potentially evaluating CRM platforms?
That's a really good question.
I think when I think about it, I think, if I'm a CEO and I go to my desk in my office, am I able to pull up a screen and evaluate the health of my company? Can I readily get to the data that is going to let me know if my business is healthy? And I think I always start there and challenge people, like, how hard is it for you to know if your business is on track and healthy? And I've been astounded at how many people can't really answer that question without involving 5 or 6 conversations and pulling data from people's personal computers and things of that nature. A sales forecast may take a week to put together, for example. We may not even be able to forecast accurately. We may not have a good idea of our sales team's performance. Those are things that I kind of hear. It's if I were to ask you to pull the data right now of who's your top performing salesperson, where are you going to get that data?
Yeah.
Are you driving your business through the windshield or through the rearview mirror? And how quickly are you able to assemble the data to make good decisions?
That's good.
That's how I kind of evaluate it, and I've been astounded, and it's been really insightful to have those conversations, with business leaders, because I think we, as business operators, you've been one, I've been one, we get caught up in the day to day, and we don't think about strategically the moves we need to make at that next level to help our company scale and grow.
Yeah, you're too busy. You're too busy working in the business, and you don't have time to work on the business. And so that's really what we offer. We can help companies take that step back, because the reality is, you're good at your business, right? So you're coming to us as a partner to help you really streamline things in your business. And so the value that we add in those conversations is exactly that. You need to focus on your business. We're experts in what we do. And I like to tell people that, look, you know your business better than anybody, and we have nearly a decade of solving these problems across many different verticals. And so we bring a lot of that experience to the table. And so when we're talking about marrying that experience with the business experience that they have, really great things happen. And it's funny. I was thinking about this. We've solved a lot of different problems over the decade of being in business. But you think about it, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. I can't see the health of my business. I can't accurately forecast my pipeline. Things are falling through the cracks.
Falling through the cracks.
That's the biggest thing I hear all the time. Things are falling through the cracks, and so I think that is collaboration. We got two different teams. We have two different systems. Of course, everybody wants to automate their business end to end, and we certainly do that and solve that. But it's boiling back down to simple communication, collaboration, and key information in real time in their business.
And having that all in one place, right? If it's living in Salesforce or HubSpot, that's fine. But if not, then let's integrate those platforms so that we've got that relevant data right there, so that we can action those decisions, make those quick decisions. It was funny you mentioned, helping them kind of understand the value we offer. When they choose to go forward with a CRM platform, it is not worth their time to learn the CRM platform in and out, because the complexities of these platforms are rooted in the fact that they're so capable and so flexible. They can wrap around literally any business. And so I always like to use the analogy of like open heart surgery. You wouldn't try to give yourself open heart surgery. That'd be suicide. Similarly, it's like, do you want to try to solve these unique business problems all by yourself, or do you trust an expert that's worked with over 800 businesses, that's done 2,000 projects, that has 5-star CSAT, to come in alongside you, be that partner, and guide you through the process?
Yeah, well, you and I can go get a couple shovels and start digging a hole to build a pool. Is that the right thing to do? Probably not. We can only get so far that way. It's gonna take way longer. You and I can make significant progress, but I'd rather call somebody, probably start with a friend who's used somebody who did a good job on the pool. And obviously time, budget always come into a factor. But I think one of the most things that our culture has really ingrained in us is, what has someone else said about them? So the review process of how many projects have they done? How many problems have they solved? Again, there's only so many problems out there to solve theoretically, but we're really good at solving those problems across different verticals, across different industries.
Yeah, we see, and particularly working exclusively with small and growing businesses, all businesses kind of, by the time we find them, they're dealing with that same set of like 1 to 5 problems. And it usually centers around process inconsistency. They haven't gotten their processes consistent, they haven't professionalized their processes, and they haven't put a system in place to ensure that those processes stay bulletproof and can scale with their business. And that's where we bring in the conversation around a CRM of being that system. I figure, and we say often, when you get consistent processes in place, it's like a GPS. You're headed in the right direction. Now, you may need to make a couple of course corrections along the way, but at least you're consistently headed in the right direction. Without that process consistency, everything just kind of falls apart eventually.
Let's go back to the ROI question.
Okay.
I like to talk about it this way with a business owner, and it kind of goes hand in hand with why we serve small and medium-sized businesses. Because ultimately, like you hit it earlier, we're a group full of ex-business operators, small business owners. We've scaled a small business, so we have a lot to bring to the table from that standpoint. But from an ROI standpoint, when I'm talking to a president or a CEO of a small company, and they're talking about, hey, why do we need a partner versus doing it ourselves? And so outside of the obvious experience and the guidance question, are really coming back with that. I think it boils down to there's always going to be a cost, and it goes back to the life cycle or life stage of the business. So there's really three options. You can choose to do what you've been doing and get the same results you have been doing, and that's okay. Status quo is a very strong force in a business. You might not be ready yet. The second one is you can do it yourself. That's going to have opportunity costs related to that. You can try to train up somebody on your team, so within that same bucket, who has the most available bandwidth on the team that could learn this new tool. There's tools out there, and in certain situations, you can make some significant progress. But what's the opportunity cost of that person swivel chairing, trying to learn a new system that they've never built or try to configure themselves? That's bucket number two. And then the third one is they can go and work with a partner. Somebody who's got that experience, somebody who can guide them, watch out for those rocks, and ultimately get to the right solution. Now, there's a cost associated with that, but just like there's a cost associated with using, the best contractor in town who is trusted and true and is going to deliver that result for you and your family if you're doing a home renovation. Same thing with us. We know based off of our experience what to look out for. We know how to navigate these difficult business process discussions because we've solved it before. And at the end of the day, we can help them come up with the right approach after having those conversations. I like to kind of boil it down into those three different buckets and then just kind of throw it back to them. It's like, hey, here's the three different options. What feels right to you? And then ultimately we can come up with the right solution for their business.
Yeah, there's going to be risk, whichever path they choose, right? And I think we try, as a part of the way we scope our projects and our engagements, to take as much of that risk of that first engagement off the plate as possible.
That's right.
Talk about how we do that.
Yeah, so the best way to really de-risk that is keep it as small as possible. And the best way we do that is really to prioritize what's the pain or what's the business problem that we're trying to solve. So there's a lot of different things. I like to kind of going back to what we talked about earlier. What is tell me about your business and tell me how successful you've been, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't successful in business. And so, but there's always ways to streamline, to automate. But ultimately, it goes back to prioritizing what is going to generate the biggest return for you and your business. That's where I like to highlight. That's what our team highlights. There's always going to be 100 little things, sub-bullets underneath that, but what is the biggest thing that's going to move the needle for you as a business owner, as a team lead, whatever that is, and we focus on that, and we put some borders around that, come up with a timeline and a budget to accomplish those, quick amount of time, quick path to value, and what that does is it helps the team understand that it takes this big, potential, scary change and it makes it very palatable for them. They get excited, they understand how it works, and then from there you have a very solid foundation to expand upon.
Yeah, we say think big, implement small. Right? We're over the course of our discovery process with a client, we're having conversations. We're going to hear a lot because we've seen a lot, and we know areas where we can come in and have impact. But I think over the course of that conversation and that process, that kind of transformative value that we can deliver quickly is what we're really looking for. And that gives them a chance to work with us, to get into the process, to see what we're all about, and to kind of experience, the fast slow motion difference. Talk a little bit about, we see a lot of deals that come our way from from Salesforce, from HubSpot, where they've tried to do it themselves. Maybe they've hired another partner that just wasn't as good at understanding business process or understanding the technology. We call them dumpster fires. We call them remediation cases. But we encounter a lot of clients who've implemented CRM wrong, or whose CRM, it may not even be their fault. Maybe they implemented it correctly 5 years ago, but their business has evolved so much since then, and the platform hasn't evolved with it. So talk to me a little bit about remediation, about somebody who's frustrated with their CRM. First of all, like, what advice would you have for them? And then secondly, how do we approach those kind of projects?
I think there are two different types. If it's a business who has been on the platform for some amount of time and they've just outgrown their business model's changed, whatever, it's a different conversation than someone who's come fresh. Hey, we went down this road, whether we, ultimately spoke with us or a different partner, we chose that other partner, they made us some promises they couldn't deliver on. That's a little different conversation to have. I personally like those. I hate it for the business owner or the business itself, because there's time and there's effort and there's money that's lost. You can't get that time back. I hate that, but I love it as an opportunity because I know what our team is capable of, and I know that we set really good expectations. And so where we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort in the process, uncovering what's going to move the needle for business owners, always we're telling them the things that they don't know that they need to expect. And so some of those things ultimately are tough to hear, but that's part of our job. We have to be real. Again, going back on the nearly a decade of our experience, we've solved a lot of problems. We made a lot of mistakes, but the best way that I can tell our clients is that you're not a guinea pig. You are the benefactor of all the past mistakes, all the decisions that, or you're the benefactor of all the problems that we've solved, the mistakes that we've made, because you can't decouple success from failure. Right. We've made a lot of those. We've seen a lot of failure from clients, and so, when someone comes to us from a remediation standpoint, there's a sense of empathy, right? Because they've lost some time, energy, and effort. And so automatically there's a wall that's thrown up at us, because some of the things we say may sound a lot like what they heard, but ultimately what's that differentiating factor? And at the end of it, it's a tough line to walk, but it's about building trust. How do we build trust? Is ultimately, I know that this big thing went wrong here, but again, what's the smallest project we can put together that's going to move the needle, that's going to get you exposure to working with our team and show you how we can move that needle, and then from there we'll just continue to set another milestone and move down the road. I hear this a lot from clients. Hey, we've worked with several clients, or we've worked with several partners before, and ultimately we need somebody who is not focused on just this aspect of the business or this aspect of the business. We're looking for somebody who's more of a strategic, holistic partner. I love those, because that's what we are. We're not just focused on one small thing. We are a generalist, but there's some power that comes with being a generalist, right? We've seen a lot of things. We've solved a lot of problems across different spectrums, different industries. But it's more, we've got people on our team who are experts in accounting, also in sales, obviously marketing, and customer service support. And so those are the main things that people are coming to us saying, hey, we tried to solve this with this one partner, but they don't quite get this part of our business. Where we can come in is we can take that holistic approach and put together a strategy and a solution that's really going to fit their business. And long term, the more we learn about their business, the more that we can tell them, and the more that we can help them understand where these tools can take them. Because again, they don't know what they don't know. And so with our experience, we can help them really stitch together a really nice, scalable solution that's going to help them future-proof their business.
Talk a little bit about the sales process. So usually it's you or me, we're meeting them first. At some point in time, we typically bring in somebody from the delivery team. And by the delivery team, I'm referring to the folks that actually do the consulting and configuration work. When we get to that point, Talk a little bit about the resources of the team and what that experience is like for the client. And we're talking 120 consultants, hundreds of collective years in business and Salesforce and HubSpot that were able to just kind of cast the net out there and strategically find these individuals on our team to impact this specific client. Once we bring those guys in, the Navy SEALs over here from FSM, talk a little bit about that process and what is that team looking for?
That's pretty powerful. I'm glad you brought that up. So when we encounter a new opportunity or a problem to solve, we're looking across the team and with the experience, who can we bring in that's going to be the right fit? So when we bring in a solution engineer or we bring in a project leader, we categorize those in the same bucket, solution engineer. So it could be a project leader. It could be one of our solution architects who's going to come in and take a look at the business that we've already kind of at a high level scope, but tactically, what is it going to take? And at the detail, like how are we going to connect this system to that system, or how are all these teams going to communicate together? And one of the things I would say is consistency. So people are looking at, they meet a lot of people in this process, especially if they're interviewing a lot of different people, a lot of different platforms. Again, there's several platforms out there that people are trying to interview. And so the last thing we want to do is really kill people with multiple meetings that are not impactful. So when we bring a project leader or a solution engineer in, we try to keep them throughout the whole process because we're hearing details about their business. And I always like to tell people, look, we don't want to be friction. We don't want to be sandpaper in this process. We do not want to ask you the same question twice. So there's a lot of process and a lot of prep that goes into our meeting prep. So we're not going in to ask the same questions twice. Sometimes that's inevitable. Sometimes it's just really helpful to ask the business owner to really boil down what they're trying to solve. But the fact of the matter, I think what makes us really powerful is, we have some tools in place that where we record calls. And so we take those calls, we have an internal sync with our team, we're talking about the problem we're solving, and then we bring them to the table. Where I've really seen our project team wow prospects is they get up to speed very quickly. They come in just like they've been a part of the conversation, the meeting or two before, and they are specifically coming in and adding value immediately. That builds trust, it builds rapport, and it tells the client that we've done this before, we've got you, and we're going to help guide you through this entire process. So it's very seamless, even throughout the process. A really good example, we just working with a very fantastic client, again, coming from spreadsheets, running their business out of inbox, got a sales and a customer support team, and we brought in one of our awesome project leaders. So they had gone with a different platform before, they had outgrown it, and ultimately trust was very important to them, right? And they said, hey, the next decision we make, this is going to be the decision we make for the long haul. And so we made the decision to bring in the appropriate resource and say, look, we know this is going to require a lot of trust building. And so where we can, we structure that project leader to come in and be there for the entire project. So you're hearing all the pre-sales, all the discovery, and then they sign the contract. Guess what? That same person who was there, we built that rapport with, is going to be your project leader. And it's a beautiful process. It's seamless. The clients love that, and we're not starting at 0. We're starting at 1. And so we can quickly go from what we scoped into actually building the thing and getting them value quickly. As a business owner, if I could offer one piece of advice, I would really consider the question, what happens if I do nothing? And think about that, because while you're thinking about that, your competitors are taking action. We see it every day. We see a lot of different problems that are being solved across different industries. There are people that are disrupting industries every day. I like asking that question because I think it cuts through everything, and ultimately, what happens if you do nothing? And in 5 years, is technology going to be more relevant then than it is now? And I argue that it probably is. And so to the business owner who continues to solve problems with people and process and not a platform, that's great. Consider using a platform to allow your people and your process to go further.
What are some of the symptoms? So we see a lot of remediation cases. What are some of the symptoms that a business owner might be experiencing?
A lot of companies that come to us after a quote unquote failed implementation, or they chose the wrong partner, come to us and we ask them, it's like, what happened? Ultimately, what were you sold in that process? And almost always it's a cheaper initial where expectations weren't set and they change ordered them to death. We see that a lot, and it's unfortunate. It's a bit of a bait and switch, and I specifically call things out that our process is not a bait and switch, because at the end of the day, I mean, our numbers speak for themselves. Our clients, our reviews that are put out there for everyone to see.
So Blake, a lot of times people come to us and they're frustrated with their CRM. And it could be a number of reasons. Maybe they implemented it themselves. Maybe a partner botched the implementation. Maybe they implemented it 5 years ago and it just hasn't grown with their business. We see a lot of symptoms, right? People, their salespeople are frustrated and complain about using the system because it's too many clicks, or they're not seeing the value because they don't have the reports or the data in the system that they need, or the system's not integrated with any of their other systems. It's just kind of another silo of data. All of these frustrations can lead to some real disheartenment, lack of confidence that these CRM platforms like Salesforce or HubSpot can help their business scale. We offer a free service called a health check here at FSM for people that fit this kind of frustrated space with their CRM. Talk a little bit about that health check process.
Yeah, well, first of all, the health checks, we do a ton of them, and it's unfortunate, but it's a service we gladly offer, which is really just an hour call with some experts on our team. So depending on what's happened with that client, we spend an hour with them understanding. Really, it's helpful to understand what's happened historically. Where did it go wrong? And a lot of times we don't know. We have no idea. Well, what were you trying to accomplish? And so really high level, it's doing what we always do. But it's with this additional component of there's a sense of urgency because they've spent time and money and effort on this process. And so at the end of it, people often ask, well, what do I get at the end of an hour health check? Well, you get the confidence that you've got an option of a team that can help get you out of this bind, more than likely. That's ultimately where we land. And so I would say where we start with an hour call, it ends up being a second call where we're actually tactically diving in further to figure out that, doing some forensics and ultimately saying, all right, well, this is how we would have solved it. And really pretty quickly we can understand where the other partner either went wrong, or sometimes it's on the company. Sometimes they didn't, companies don't know what they don't know. And so sometimes it's on the partner, sometimes it's on the business, but with our process, we account for those ups and downs, the unknowns. And so when we position that with a client and we fully explain, setting those expectations of what they can expect in the process, recalibrate, reset hit the reset button, there's a funny thing that is built, and it's really called trust. And so almost, I would say a vast majority of those clients that come to us, when we tell them and explain our process, reset those expectations, they have the confidence that whatever platform that they've gone down the road with is the right solution. Sometimes it may not be, but for the most part, it's the right solution. You just didn't have the right partner to actually implement that.